okay, if I get back on the grid next year, I already have things that I want to do different, and it's quite cool. You know, I wouldn't have had that if I was still in the race car.
So you just said then, if I'm back on the grid next year, which sort of gives away that it's already on your mind. You're already thinking that far ahead.
Ricciardo has opened up about his future yet again, and it seems like there's a huge possibility that we're going to watch him race in 2024. Although we've been led to believe that Red Bull would be his next destination, after what's been said by one of the team principals in the sport, Ricciardo could settle in for a starting role in a team that he didn't even want to hear about prior to the beginning of the 2023 season. So join us as we get through his options and see what the chances are that the Honeybadger will join Haas, and if he doesn't, what his next available options are. Now, after 2 miserable seasons with McLaren, in which Ricciardo managed to rack up 1 win and lose a huge amount of confidence in his driving abilities, the contract with McLaren made no sense anymore, and he had to look into his options. But little did Ricciardo know, his value at this point had been reduced to basically 0, and there weren't any chances that he'd be considered a high-value pick from any of the top teams, such as Red Bull or Mercedes. The only options that remained available for Ricciardo were the back-market teams like Williams and Haas, but Ricciardo didn't even want to hear about racing for a team that wasn't capable of battling for wins, as that was his future in the previous 2 seasons with McLaren. And while many were quick to bash Ricciardo and blame him for the bad results of the Woking-based squad, we've seen in 2023 that, after all, it wasn't him who had no idea how to drive the MCL 36, but it's the car that's doing it in a regressive manner. However, that's all in the past, and while Ricciardo has prayed for a potential moment when Perez would be caught lacking and he'd be the first choice to replace him and play second fiddle to Verstappen, that doesn't seem to be the truthful reality for the Honeybadger. So with this in mind, what are some of the options that Ricciardo could look into as we head into 2024? Now, one team that became more attractive is Haas, as this is a team that's changed its duo of starting drivers multiple times during the previous couple of years.
What is the best for the team and how can we move quickest to get us better in a better spot and be solid in the midfield, if not going to the front of the midfield, which in the moment that's the best we can wish for.
Ricciardo, being a veteran, is definitely something that the team could benefit from, given the fact that they aren't famous for investing too much trust and hope in rookie drivers, as their starting duo now consists of 2 veterans as well. The most interesting part of this is that Hülkenberg's contract for the 2024 season isn't guaranteed, and Magnussen is yet to renew his contract beyond 2023 as well. As far as we can see, the season didn't really start as planned for Haas, and it took 8 drivers to not finish the race so that Hülkenberg will be able to score his first major points in Formula 1 after a 3-year break. And during the Australia GP, Ricciardo was complimented that while Red Bull's colours look good on him, he doesn't belong in the pit wall but among the drivers, and to this comment of Ted Kravitz, Ricciardo added that he can do what he currently does for 1 year and it's not a big deal. This hinted that the Honeybadger is eyeing a return in 2024. While we knew this all along, now the situation has developed into something very interesting. Which team would be willing to sign the veteran? Obviously, Red Bull does not have a huge plan of breaking the contract with Perez, even though he did show to be a legitimate threat to Verstappen's championship hopes after the first 2 races of the season and after Red Bull announced that they had found the perfect solution for both of its drivers. On the other hand, Haas is definitely a team that could offer Ricciardo a home, especially after what Steiner said before the Australian GP about Ricciardo, as he went on to add, "It's a little bit early to speak about a driver change already for next year. So let's see how we're doing with these drivers, Magnussen and Hülkenberg, and for sure at some point maybe I speak with him, but I cannot promise anything, because if our 2 guys do a good job, I think where I stand with it, but for sure, everybody is wanting to speak with Danny after a year off. Maybe he knows again what he wants to do, and he'll be interesting for everybody in Formula 1. But at the moment, I have a new driver this year, Hülkenberg, that has done only 2 races, so I need to give him a little bit of a chance." As the old saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. And Ricciardo is definitely one of the hottest candidates that Haas are considering again after the statement of Steiner went viral during the Australian GP. Even though Ricciardo had different plans for himself and for his career, now he has to satisfy with what is being offered to him, which is a seat in a team that could very well score decent points and be present in the midfield if the right leadership is provided from his side. And keep in mind that Ricciardo has already bagged the $36 million bonus by signing with Red Bull this year, so next year it would definitely not be about the money for him, but the opportunity to be competitive yet again and finally race in a team that will be able to provide him what he desperately needs, a chance to be competitive. Not to take anything away from Hülkenberg and Magnussen, but they don't possess the knowledge and the race-winning experience that Ricciardo has under his belt. So if there is someone that can take Haas where they're supposed to be, that is definitely Ricciardo. Yes, we admire the fact that he went for the reserve driver role in Red Bull and secured a huge paycheck from the team that treated him so poorly during the 2 seasons together, and the fact that he hoped Perez could be replaced at any given point in 2023 still stands as it is. But now we need to talk about the more realistic approach for Ricciardo's future, signing with a team that he can be the #1 driver in. And to add to the statement that he's made in Australia, Ricciardo has opened up on making a return sooner rather than later, as he told small groups and reporters during a Red Bull partner event with Yeti. The signs are pointing towards getting back on the grid. I feel like that's where I'm tracking in my head, and a few of the habits that I'm having or doing is pointing towards that. It's only been a few months out of F1, but I think some itches have been scratched, so to speak. I've actually weirdly found that the days I've had no schedule are the days when I've actually done training and I've done things like I would before. So I don't know, being my own boss, writing my own schedule has actually brought out a lot of things in me when I thought I might just sit on the couch and watch movies all day and eat junk food. I'm just not, that's not me. So even these things have made me realise how much I do care about it. We did know that Ricciardo wants to race, but we had no idea at this point he would be so enthusiastic about joining a racing team in 2024. Even though he still said it's not something that he would do at any given cost, as he still wants to race for high results and not for the sake of it, there aren't many teams outside of Red Bull that can offer him this, and he may be forced to think in another direction and tone his expectations down a bit. There is still an opportunity for him to fill up an empty place in Mercedes, with the Silver Arrows actually looking to be not very committed to the relationship with Hamilton, as the 7-time world champion is more and more connected to a departure from the team. Russell's performance has been something too much for Hamilton, and even though he tried to blame it on the car's setup and on the car's performances, it's evident he isn't the happiest man in Mercedes right now. But even if this wild scenario turns out to be the truth, the fact that Ricciardo chose Red Bull as a team in which he'll serve the role as a reserve driver is enough for Mercedes to look in another direction, with them having a young talent in the garage waiting to suit up. So with all this in mind, what do you think about Haas signing Ricciardo from 2023 onwards? And do you think that the Honeybadger will find a new home with the American squad and lead the team to solid results in 2024 and therefore solidify his position as a leader in a team, something he's failed to do in Red Bull with Verstappen's rise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.